Good afternoon. I'd like to speak briefly on the Energy Efficiency Microgeneration Project, which was funded by Enterprise 4A. It's a 3-year programme which has retrofitted a range of sustainable and renewable technologies into 9 number existing buildings across the East Border region to create exemplar visitor sites for the public and create awareness. Some of the technologies we put in across the board was insulation, draft proofing, oil-gas boiler conversions and microgeneration technologies. All the buildings are existing stock and council buildings, and they're of a commercial scale. They're all public buildings which the public will be encouraged to visit. One of our buildings was suited to a biomass installation. It was the Armagh Palace. It's the offices of Armagh City and District Council. I'll just talk briefly on that. Just through the procedure that we went to select the building and through a detailed energy audit, feasibility study, preliminary design to prepare for liaison with local authorities, planning, NIEA and building control. We then completed a detailed design, completed the tender process and overseen the installation process of the systems. So just a few quick photos from the site. We used an existing dog pound building adjacent to the main buildings. It was identified as the most suitable location for creating a new boiler house and fuel store. That dog pound building required substantial renovation works to facilitate the new installation. As you can see, there's roof changes, structural changes internally. To connect the remote boiler house to the existing building, a new pre-insulated pipework system was installed to connect the new boiler to the existing building. There were tee-off connections incorporated into the design to facilitate future connection of the other buildings within the palace. There's multiple buildings on the site, and the idea was that while we're only funding the one, that Armagh Council could extend that and bring it on in the future to connect other buildings in. So, long story short, we put on a 99 kilowatt biomass boiler which connects to a large thermal store. The pipework then routes underground and then connects into the existing building, with some of the pipework being recessed into the building fabric. It connects the system, the new system via a plate heat exchanger, which is the techie aspect of keeping the two systems hydraulically separate. This is a quick schematic of the design, and the more relevant information that will probably be of importance to the people today is the facts and figures associated with it. The project was funded under Europe with council contributions. The total project cost was in the order of 68,000 sterling, and the annual savings for that scheme are in excess of 11,000 sterling per year. We're hoping to achieve savings of 82.3 tonnes of CO2 per annum, which will help Armagh City and District meet their 10% reduction in CO2 targets for the NI renewable heat requirement by 2020. And the final fact is the financial payback. Although it's funded, we still looked at the aspect of the financial payback on it, and it's just over 6 years, 6.1 years we'll see that installation paid for. So our main contractor on the installation of this project was Armagh, and I'd like to hand over to Anita of Armagh to discuss ESCOs in relation to biomass boilers.
Right, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anita from Armagh, and first of all, I want to say that I'm one of the fans of biomass out there. I know there's a number of us in the room today, and hopefully there's a few of us here that by the end of the day you'll become fans of biomass. It's something that at home we use, and very much in my business life, commercially, I try and promote as well. There are a range of fantastic benefits from biomass. It's clean, it's green, and it's cost effective. But you're going to hear all about that today as well. So I want to move on a little bit and deal with a slightly different issue. And first of all, really, it's when it's so good, as Peter said earlier, we're so heavily reliant upon oil in Ireland. Now, why is it not sort of more widely used? And really that comes down to, in some ways, the technology is unfamiliar, although there's a growing number of them out there. You're quite often not that far away from a biomass installation, whether you know it or not. The payback times can be longer, but that's being dealt with as well. But really, I think there's a lot of myths and myth understandings about biomass out there. When I work with people, they have this very strange concept that it's, that it's a dirty technology, or there's not enough fuel out there, or it's particularly expensive. And when you talk to them, they conjure up images that are more reminiscent of the boiler room in the Titanic rather than a modern biomass system, So when I bring our clients out to some of the installations that we look after, they're usually pleasantly surprised by how clean and slick and tidy and how well it operates and how cost effective it is at the end of the day. So the renewable heat incentive is also slightly unfamiliar to people, and just getting the word out there about that, that's a fantastic initiative out there. But at the end of the day, people are still sometimes unsure about the technology. Will it work? Are we actually going to see the savings? And that provides a risk into the business. And so it's quite often easier to say no than to say yes. What I want to talk to you about today is one particular model, the ESCO model, that could potentially reduce that risk down or eliminate that risk for your business or your organisation. Okay, it's been mentioned a couple of times already by a few of the speakers. But really, an ESCO is really just a business that develops an engineered solution for you in your specific circumstances that maximises energy saving. Okay? They can then install all the elements of it. They'll maintain all the elements of it. They'll run it. They'll go out there and they'll find the biomass supplies. They'll make sure the fuel quality issues addressed. They'll remove the ash. They'll take care of every aspect of it, and then they'll ensure the savings to you. Okay, so you can have like a guaranteed savings. They can also then bring the finance to the table as well, if required, or there can be a mix of money that you bring into it, maybe grant money and then maybe ESCO money as well. But basically, at the end of the day, you're transferring all of the risks for your organisation to the ESCO, okay? And, as Paul said earlier as well, leave it to them. They're the experts. That's where they add value, okay? Don't you be going out worrying about the supply chain or anything like that. That's where their expertise is. So use them and benefit from that. Now, there's a number of different ways which you can actually then ensure the actual savings. And one of them I mentioned already, but a few others are a guaranteed savings scheme, okay? Which you put in place an energy performance contract over the entire length of the contract. It might be 7 years, or sometimes people prefer it over the lifetime of the technology. And if for any reason the savings fall short of what was predicted, then the ESCO pays the difference. They get out their checkbook and they write a cheque to the client. So you're guaranteed those savings. There's no risk there in that element. Another one is the shared savings arrangement. Okay? And again, the organisation gets lower energy costs. Okay? But you agree a shared proportion of those savings. Okay? So it incentivises the client then to become more energy efficient as well. And you can tag on lots of things like training for staff and behavioural change. And basically, together you can work to become more energy efficient and to reduce the overall energy costs. And the third one that was mentioned before was the heat service, where an ESCO can come along, they can install all of the technology and manage all of that, and then they can basically just sell you the heat at an agreed unit price as well. So the way it really works is that you have your baseline of energy costs. That's what you as your organisation or your business currently see. Okay? By coming up with this unique solution for whatever it is, including biomass is quite often an element of it now, to reduce the costs down. So that's where your performance lies. Go down to here. And then over the lifetime of the technology, you'll see that for the first part of the few years, the majority of the savings actually go to the ESCO, and that pays off their investment and their expertise in their service. But right from year one, you see a reduction in your energy costs, with potentially no capital outlay at all for you. Okay? And then at the end of the term of the ESCO, you have basically all of the savings are visualised by the business or the organisation. So I just want to give a couple of examples of the types of projects that we've looked at. And one of them is what you were looking at a number of different sites, okay? And you might have been putting in a number of different sort of biomass technologies into those sites of various sizes. Another way that we've done it is looking at a combination of different renewable energy technologies, biomass being one part of that. But I have to say my favourite, and I'm with Duncan on the energy efficiency first aspect, is that, address energy efficiency first and combine that together with the ESCO and the elements of biomass and renewables as well. Because only when you've dealt with energy efficiency can you then turn your attention properly to meeting the rest of your energy demand from renewables. That's really the model that we prefer and the way that we try to promote to our clients. So in summary then, I just want to say that looking at the benefits of ESCOs, is the first one is that you avoid that capital expenditure. You don't have to find the money for your project. The second is then you can get energy savings and cost savings right from day one of the project being implemented, quickly and for the long term. You're transferring all the risks over to the ESCO. You don't need to worry about it. You can get on with your business and what you do. Okay? So you don't need to worry about operating it or maintaining it or ensuring quality of fuel or any of those other things. Leave it to the experts. And there's a number of really good expert companies in this room today as well. You can also benefit from plant upgrades and modernising your infrastructure. You can integrate staff training into the whole thing and reduce your ongoing maintenance costs. Remaining competitive in the market is a big part of that as well. And then there's the climate change and the energy issues wrapped in there. And certainly a number of the councils in Northern Ireland, when you're going to amalgamate together, the carbon reduction commitment that we have in place is going to be a big incentive. I would assume that you're going to topple over that threshold level, and this is something that really should be looked at for yourselves as well before you get to that amalgamated 11 council state. The last one then is, as I said it before, is really allows you as an organisation or as a company to focus on what you do best and to leave the whole energy thing to the companies that actually know what they're doing with it, the experts in the field, and the ones that have done it time and time again and done it successfully. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.